Good afternoon, everybody. We're continuing with our talks with members of the Welsh Group here at Found. And today I've got Philippine Sowerby with me, who has made 6 sculptures to be part of this 2020 exhibition. This first one, black and white, which is made in oak. Furrows here, which is made of ash. Cube here. Sunbeam, torn, and then see-through, and I think you can just see through that piece looking out of our window at the rain, which has come back again. Anyway, Philippine, welcome.
Thank you.
Nice to see you here with us. And I guess I'm interested, first of all, how long you've been a sculptor and what made you become interested in sculpting in wood?
Gosh, that's 2 questions.
2 questions, yeah.
I became a sculptor. I don't really know when. I started working with wood in 2000.
Okay.
At a time where both my husband and I found ourselves unemployed with 3 little children. So I thought I need to do something creative to dissipate this angry energy. And so I started working with wood. And one of my godchild needed a present for a birthday, and I made my first jigsaw puzzle for her.
Okay.
And I was so welcome that I continued making jigsaw puzzle for quite a while. Jigsaw puzzle was a bit limiting in a way because it was very strict in its working, it's got to be extremely accurate. So slowly I moved from 2-dimensional jigsaw puzzle to 3-dimensional jigsaw puzzle, multi-layer sculpture, and I came into making sculpture probably in 2010,
Okay.
which I enjoy very much because it's a little more free than puzzle making.
Yeah, but I guess not everybody would have had the skills to begin making jigsaws. Did you know about wood? Did you have the equipment to do that?
I have a background in civil engineering, so so material science and all that is very much part of my thinking.
Yes.
And when I was young, actually, I was really passionate about sailing, and I have
Sailing?
Yes, I used to dinghy sail quite a lot in Pembrokeshire, and I have built, mended lots of sailing dinghies and all that. So my knowledge of wood was from there, really, from that experience.
Okay, interesting.
So when I tried to look at something to dissipate this energy I had in 2000, which was a very positive energy in a way, I looked at pottery as well. But then I realized that with pottery I would have to do quite a lot of learning, technical learning, and wood, well, I had already all the technical knowledge, so in a way I could launch myself into woodworking without too much difficulty.
I'm not sure everybody would see that.
Well, I had the background.
Yeah, you had the background.
Yes.
And the wood that you use, I mean, where do you get your wood from?
I'm quite rigid about where I get my wood because I really want to use local wood.
Yeah.
For me, it's really important to show people that the wood we have around is beautiful. You don't need to go and get exotic wood from different countries. We have wood here rooted in a landscape.
So do you forage for it, or do you
forage for it?
Yes.
I know a few wood tree surgeons who sometimes give me a piece when they have something interesting. Mainly I forage for it.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. And for me also it's quite important to do my work with a material which is quite cheap and normal, and not start with a very precious material which would bring the cost a lot. Yes.
Interesting. But I mean, just looking at these two where you've cut right through the pieces to make this see-through and the torn effect, I'm really intrigued how you do that. Do you cut right through the wood? How does that happen?
Yeah, and those are not so difficult actually. I see this one, for example. I have a block, and with a bandsaw I cut through my wood just like this basically. But I have to do few cuts to get that sort of thickness.
Yes.
And then afterwards, to get the two different plane, I cut this way and then that way.
Interesting. But it doesn't look like it's been done on a bandsaw. It looks like it's much more handcrafted.
No, and I suppose I do like sculpture because I have a real sense, a real understanding of 3-dimension.
Yes.
You know, which is not always that easy, but I can actually see in my mind in 3-dimension. And I sometimes solve problem in the night when I'm not thinking about it.
I think I need your brain, definitely.
Yeah.
So when you started with your jigsaws, was that quite easy? It was quite easy for you to do that.
The 2 or 3 layer jigsaw puzzles sometimes were quite complicated.
Yeah.
But that's the sort of engineering background and the 3-dimensional viewing in my mind is very helpful.
Interesting, interesting. And this one here, furrows.
Yes.
Obviously, I mean that looks as a how did you start with it? Did you see that in the wood when you first found that piece of wood, or have you created that effect?
I created that effect, I suppose. I mean, it was a nice piece of wood, which I liked the shape. It was from my woodshed, really. And I did like the different colour in the wood very much.
Beautiful.
And I started cutting with a gouge, so that's all handmade by gouge.
Yeah.
With a gouge. What I really, really like about working with wood is that quite often you have unpredictable fault in the wood.
Yeah.
And that changed my design continually. So I have an idea, but very often the starting idea is not at the end product.
No.
There's been a whole evolution, and very much see what's happening in the wood, judge what you need to do it again.
Yeah.
And the project evolved like that, so the final design is often much nicer than I thought it would.
Well, as long as it's nicer than, and sometimes it doesn't work, presumably.
Wood is useful and you can burn it if it's not good. Yes.
Yeah. And the one here in the window,
Yes.
Sunbeam, how did that start?
Sunbeam is an interesting one because it's a recycled piece of wood. It's a very, very old piece of wood. It was part of an old Welsh cottage, so it was a timber frame of an old cottage.
Okay.
So
it's a bit like is it the wattle and daub that they have the pieces of timber that go through that?
You could say that.
Yeah, but
and I mean, this is for me. It was very much a piece, the beam at the back, which has held a lot of life in wherever the building was.
Yes.
And those are a reflection of the life being parallel and going upwards, but also slightly independent. So there's an interaction, but it's also different life moving along and being held by this beam.
Yeah, lovely.
Yeah. So
yeah, and very different to that though is
they're very different
your
to each
cube
other.
Here, which is sort of like a old style Rubik cube somehow in terms of how they come together.
I don't know if you can see, the light is difficult to catch, but I have always been very impressed by the work of Chillida. Eduardo Chillida, who was an architect in Spain.
Okay.
And he does very, very basic blocks like that, which he cut usually in clay.
Yes.
This one is made of wood, which is actually, I think, more difficult than in clay.
Yes, I'm sure.
But yes, I really like that sort of working balance between lines. Yes.
No, and it's very different to your other pieces, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm often hesitating between the really rough piece, a bit like David Nash, and then the really work and polish piece. Yeah. And I'm varying from one to the other. I don't really know which one is me. I think I just like to keep both.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's lovely. Yeah. And then the final one we've got here is black and white. So what's happened here to the oak that you've made it black like that? What have you done to it?
This, it's been scorched. It's a piece of the beam which was in my workshop. I really like this one. You can hear the music almost.
Oh, nice. Lovely.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's again a contrast. A lot of my work is about contrast, about community, about interaction.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
So is it one piece of wood though?
It is one piece of wood. All my work is just one piece of wood.
Okay.
And this is a bit the challenge, but it also means that it's all made of one piece, you know, the same beam.
Yeah.
And it's about the interaction between people, community, all that sort of subject.
Lovely. They're really, really good. So do you still do jigsaws, or is it mainly about sculptures and things, sculptures that you
No, I
use?
still make jigsaw when I'm asked to make a jigsaw. So in other words, I still can make them, and I'm very happy to make some. But
Yes.
I much prefer doing
You
sculpture.
prefer doing this?
Yes. And in sculpture I can really express thought and things which you can't really say with words.
Yeah. And this was, is it all
way.
new? Is it all new work in the exhibition? This have you done it specifically in the last year, or was it?
This one, that one, are new, definitely. I had 6 pieces, yes. This one is a new one from end of last year. This year.
Yeah.
And this one too.
Okay.
That one is quite a new one.
Yes.
And that one is a fairly old one.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I can't really say, but definitely the last two, those two there are my newest one.
Your
just
newest
for the exhibition.
Lovely.
And then the one which are really 20 by 20. Actually.
Yes, exactly. Because that, of course, was the brief, wasn't it?
That was a brief which I found really difficult to start with, you know, and I was really blocked by it. And in sculpture, does it mean 20 by 20 by 20?
Yep.
You know, so is it a cube you want? So am I just limited to make a cube?
Yes. Well, I think actually, I mean, Sue Hiley-Harris yesterday was saying a similar thing, that it was really difficult to begin, but once got going, then perhaps
once I started, I really enjoyed it, and in fact I think it's a very nice format.
Yes.
I've been really inspired at the moment by the work of Roger Cecil, because I'm doing quite a lot of work with that, and you know, I'm thinking, gosh, I want to do some little panel, and 20 by 20 would be really beautiful.
Would be nice to do that. Okay, so maybe you need to set your own sort of boundaries for other work as well that you're doing.
I do enjoy that, actually, boundaries like that, a subject. It's a challenge which, it challenged me.
Great.
Take me outside my comfort zone.
Your comfort zone. Oh, well, it's really a delight to have them here, and I think they look really lovely here on the surfaces as part of the exhibition, and has added to the dimension overall. So really great to have them. Thank you.
Thank you for having them too.
No, thank you. That's great. Thanks. All right. Bye-bye.